Okay, everybody, welcome back to Learning from Home. And Phil, welcome back. How's
Thank you very much.
how are things on your side? Yeah, I see you're back in lockdown again over in the UK, or maybe where you are. You're not in lockdown, but how are things over there?
Yeah, you're right. England has gone into lockdown. Wales is currently in lockdown. They come out in a week or so's time, which means that my favourite pastime, going to the pub, is on hold until December. Uh, Fortunately, the pubs have been allowed to do takeaways. I shall be taking away.
Well, so you've got to have something to enjoy rather than have everything locked up. So, and over here in Sweden, as I know, like all the news loves talking about the Sweden approach, but yes, we have got some restrictions in place. We can't have more than, I think it's 8 people at a table, but the pubs are open, the restaurants are open, but people are very sensible here that not too many people are going to them. So I myself stick, to my beloved barbecue at home and have my beer and wine at home. So I keep things well and truly away from the public. So, but yeah, I think I think with all these lockdowns, and now it's even harder because we're coming into winter, and we are almost, I know, what we 7 months in from the COVID. I want to open up this one about, again, having focus on the family, because I think these are you hear in the papers, and you hear also from what people at work, and also I feel it myself that the attention is always about trying to keep the balance at work and focus on work, and also you get stressed. But because your office is in your home half the time, or most people most of the time, they forget that the family is sitting, especially your kids, are sitting close to you or around you, and they're copping the brunt over and over again of snapping at you, or like you being in a bad mood, and there's a huge impact on people's relationships. So I want to explore that with you, Phil, in terms of giving people some advice about leading from home with a focus on the family. And if I start with myself and put myself on the spotlight, I know I've been put my hand up in terms of, we've had a tough month this month at work, with a lot of, with a big workload and a lot of pressures. And you do snap at your kids, and or if they ask you, "Oh, can you come play with me on the PlayStation?" So, I don't have time for that. Straight away. And then they start not asking you anymore. And that's where I think, and you just to really stand back and think, okay, today I didn't behave very well in terms of, to my kids, and it's unfair for them because they don't work for my company, and it's not how I behave normally. So, so I'm thinking some of the things that I've been doing is, taking them out for bike rides, and hey, finish work early, and I'm going to go and take them out for a treat, just one-to-one cafe, have a nice, treat them for stuff they don't normally do. So from your perspective, what are some of the things that, how we can be more attentive, but also to be more focused towards our kids? Because it's a difficult balance, having, maintaining a job as well as looking after your family relationships.
I think one of the things I'd encourage anybody watching this video to do is to take a leaf out of your book, because actually, Sean, the behaviour you demonstrate more than anything else is self-awareness. I think what I would encourage everybody just to actually try and take a step back and look at their behaviour, look at what's going on, and just try and think beyond that into the implications of how that action, what ripples does it cause further down the line? That snapping back, no, I'm not going to play with the PlayStation, and then in a week's time you wonder, well, where are the kids? Why aren't they asking me to play? Well, because you've just conditioned them not to come and ask me because of the quality of the response. Just having that self-awareness of, what did I just say? What impact did it have? What can I do now differently? Do I have the humility to go back and say to my spouse, or say to my children, sorry, that was a work reaction. I've finished work now. And we talked a lot about transitions over these weeks. It is an incredibly difficult thing for people to do, and I accept that 100%. But that transition from daddy and mummy are at work to mummy and daddy are not at work now, sending the signals to the children, sending the signals to our spouses that actually we're now ready and accessible and willing to actually participate in the non-work part of living at home.
Yeah, it's really good advice. And what advice would you give on the flip side in terms of this is something which I haven't done, which you just gave me a reminder here in terms of, being at work when you ask if you're a manager, you ask your employees for feedback. How can us parents ask your kids for feedback in terms of, was dad a good dad today, or was I how did I behave, in a serious way? But how do you get them to get their feedback? Hey, no, oh no, you're always angry at me and you're always so grumpy at work or at home. How's a good way to sort of get a pulse about how they're feeling? Because I don't do it, and I'm sure that they see a big change in both myself and my wife, because we are, at home a lot of the time. Or my wife is there every single day. So how can we be more attentive to their thoughts and their reactions?
Do you know, the thing I love about our podcast is that you throw questions like that at me with no preparation.
That's why it is
to get me to think on my feet. I mean, let's face it though. I mean, and so you got me thinking. So kids are used to receiving feedback, because if you think about it, not just from you and parents and family members, but they're used to getting feedback from school. So they do their classwork. They'll get feedback, and they're quite used to gold stars and praise points. So why not flip it and just say, look, did Dad get his gold star for good behaviour today? And make the key thing is keep the fun in it.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
if you can enjoy it with them. And if if they want to take you to the naughty corner, then take it in good faith, because this feedback's precious. And if they said, Daddy's been using that language he doesn't like us using back in the home, take it on the chin, go into the naughty corner, and just engage them in that process. I think that's the thing that I'd encourage.
Well, it's a really good point, and I say this is where it's good that we don't have any notes when you say that. I ask you questions off the cuff, because these are real life challenges that each of us are facing, as in listeners and myself, to you. So and there's things that we haven't faced before because we haven't worked so much at home. And one of the things you talk about, being in the naughty corner, the things that I keep on forgetting still, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, is when you have a phone call or a meeting that goes on for like a long period of time, you do drop the F word, or like somebody says something, you don't believe this, the words. And the kids are only, my house, a couple of rooms away, and they're hearing it every single day. That now hear my son on the iPad sometimes go, "Oh, F it," and that's a negative impact that I'm now seeing more and more, because of, even though they're a couple of rooms away and we're so engrossed into our work, which we need to be, we need to be super careful with the language that we're using, because of now that these kids that are picking up our naughty language. And it's very, very hard to take it back away from them, because they realize, it's fun that, it's all right, Daddy can say it, if I must use it. And now that when they get angry, they're copying our behavior. So as parents and role models, we need to be, as you say, super attentive to our behavior at home, leading from home, because of our kids are basically our audience.
Yeah, very, very much so. And I think, we've talked in the past about the importance of transitions. And I think, in today's episode, again, it's a great reminder to people that they create this transition from, work mum to home mum, work dad to home dad. It's important for you. It's vital for the rest of the family, that they can see that that you're wearing that different hat again, and you're back in that zone or the other.
Yeah.
The other thing that a lovely British guy that I was working with earlier this week, he's got a lot of his colleagues are based in India. Now the clocks have changed. They're 5.5 hours ahead of us here in the UK, 4.5 hours ahead of you in Sweden, which means that window of opportunity to work together is a lot narrower than it was. So he's now committed 3 days a week to an early start. He'll be in his office at 5 o'clock in the morning, but he doesn't still stay there at 5 o'clock in the evening. His family know that because of that early start, come 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he's theirs. And so with all of this, these very dark nights, if you finish at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you give your family 1-2 hours of your availability in the daylight, that's worth getting up early in the morning for, isn't it?
100%. Absolutely. And that's the type of things that I've been doing too, that in Sweden it gets dark even quicker than you do in the UK. That if I have a quiet schedule in the afternoon, because we're still working in the office here in my organization, that my son, like myself, loves cycling, and so I say if I can leave work half an hour to get back, to take him for a half an hour cycle ride with some jumps and then finish off with a coffee for me and a cake for him, that makes his day. So that's the thing, that transitioning and just mixing things up, that with this, that it's not all bad. There's flexible approaches that we can take, that again, focusing on the family in terms of, if I come to work early or if I just skip my lunch, I can spend more time with my family who are suffering on part of this in a positive way.
Yeah, very, very good. And and recognizing that these habits are the habits that we're going to be in now for at least the next 6 months. I think when the UK finance minister announced the furlough extension through to March, it was very much with that thought process in mind. We are not going to be out of this for at least another 5-6 months, and it's probably a lot longer than that. So if you're not in these habits yet, it's time to start.
Yeah, and this is where I talk about transitions. I want to transition to family and to stress, because we are going into winter and the cases of COVID are going up in Europe, and I'll say this is not going to go. People aren't going to go back to work in the next 6 months. That people are already, I know a lot of them are stressed with either family stress, financial stress, and other stresses, with their health. I'd like us to discuss some of the things that we can help give people some inspiration, some ideas, and some coaching from yourself to help manage that stress. And because I know some of the things that I've changed, and also my wife have done in the house, we've added more plants around the house. So we've got around in front of me, it's not my wife put some plants, can't really hear this, but a lot more green, which already makes it more relaxing. But habits is that I know my wife goes for a walk every single day, even when it's super cold, out into nature. And I always either go for a gym workout or a slight jog. So really taking the breaks to switch off, both for your fitness and for your health, as well as into nature. So what are some of the things from your experience, Phil, and the coaching that you provide that can help both employees and managers manage their stress as we start going into this tough winter?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, our conversations are rarely scripted, but often very serendipitous. So at the beginning of the week, I shared on LinkedIn a lovely post from a guy called Stephen Bryant Langer, and if I'm looking away from the camera, it's because I've got it on my other screen here, and I wanted to pronounce his name correctly. So Stephen's another executive coach, and his post is all about happiness chemicals and how to hack them. So Stephen just reminds us all that there are these 4 fundamental chemicals that drive our well-being: dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, and serotonin. And just a quick reminder that actually, as a way to deal with stress, there are very practical things that we can do. Most of them are for free, that will actually enable us to get aspects of all 4 of these chemicals. I'll with the apologies to looking away from the camera, I'll just read out some of the things that he recommends. So dopamine, it's the reward chemical. He says, you get it when you complete tasks. So people who have to-do lists and tick off those to-do lists, it's a great way of doing it. You don't have to go onto social media and see how many likes you get. You can get it in a much more practical way. Doing self-care activities, eating food and celebrating little wins are all the ways that you get your dopamine hits. For serotonin, meditating, running, sun exposure. So back to the point in getting out in the daylight that you just chatted about, walking in nature, the tip from your wife, swimming and cycling, brilliant ways of actually getting your serotonin in. Oxytocin, which is the one that comes from love. I think one of the things that is completely underestimated with the physical distancing that's going on as a way of combating COVID at the moment is that humans like to touch. It is what we do, and the absence of hugs and the absence of touching is a major contributor of stress.
Yeah.
Well, have a dog, get a pet.
Yeah.
You can stroke and play with the pet, and if you haven't got one, borrow one from a neighbour, because that most neighbours will be delighted if you go around and say, "Can I walk your dog?" and give it a bit of a play. They'll say yes, thank you very much. Playing with a baby, holding hands with your loved one, and actually just giving compliments. Just the pleasure of saying good things and to other people. It gives you that oxytocin. And then finally, endorphins. Laughter, essential oils, watch a comedy, dark chocolate. I always loved that when I saw that.
That's good. I eat dark chocolate every night when we watch TV. So good. I'm getting most of these things. I'm going through my head going tick, tick, tick. Yep.
And last but by no means least, another of your favorites, exercise. Yeah. So what a super practical set of tips. So thanks, Stephen, for that. And I wanted to share. I shared it on LinkedIn. I've shared it on the video now. And just so many things that we can do to get these chemicals for free to combat the stress that you talked about.
I'll put that in the show notes, because I think, I say first of all, to be aware of each of those things, because people always think that stress, I must either exercise or, on the bad side, drink. And I know, again, reading a lot of things in the paper, the alcohol consumption in most countries is going, up and up and up, because people, because they're at home, okay, in 5 o'clock, I'm going to have a glass of wine. And then it becomes 2, and then it becomes that they drink then every single day. So, your list doesn't say drink alcohol. So I think if people look at that list in terms of, look at some of the healthy and sustainable ways to manage stress, sustainable being the key, because yes, having a glass of, a couple of beers on a weekend is good for you. But if you had that every single day to relieve stress, that is not sustainable for your health. If anything's detrimental. But the things you've put in your list here, that the article that will get people to read, healthy ways and habits that will make you a better person, both to your family, to your workplace, and to yourself. So I'm glad I'm doing most of these things, and that's where I think I become more aware of. And we talked about in my earlier podcast about the program with Hinter, is also for myself in terms of, while I love cycling, this is a great time to do more of it, because the more stress you have, then getting out on the bike helps relieve that stress. So find the things that you love, whether it be swimming, cycling, running, yoga, meditation, but do more of it, because of when we're looking in front of a screen, which I heard, I read an article also about people being zoomed out. There's so much Zoom going on these days that, yes, it's great for people who work from home, but looking at a screen, people not missing the touch, but missing the interaction physically.
Yeah, the Zoom fatigue is very, very real. I mean, we talked in an earlier episode, but I'll just reiterate the point. You don't have to schedule these sessions for an hour. That's just because we're lazy, and it's things like Outlook, and we'll set them up for 30 minutes or for 60 minutes. Set them for 45. Set them for 50. Give yourself time to reflect, to actually do some work. Because if you're in back-to-back Zoom calls, as many of my colleagues are now, you've got no time to think. And your mind is still in the previous call, which means that the first 10 minutes you're not really on message, and it shows. It shows. So nobody's being kidded by this. I mean, and you're not being efficient. No. All you're doing is you're just actually working extremely long hours and getting nothing done. So schedule some time, build in transition time to think. And I'm increasingly working with some leaders who are very much along those mindsets. Schedule things for 15 minutes past the hour, schedule things for maximum of 45 minutes, to allow themselves and me to actually then reflect on what we've discussed, put something in place, so that when we're ready to go again, it's there. So
yeah, and also too, as Madeline introduced in her team, which I know I'm also now a lot of people, a lot of managers are doing, having the walk and talk meeting. So if you don't need to look at her screen, both benefit, both you and the employee. Go for a walk, like plug your headphone in. That way, the thing you talked about with the article about you're both going to get some fresh air. Then you're also going to have a more of a clear head to talk about things that you're trying to discuss in your meeting rather than having the Zoom. So be creative in how to have meetings, because you don't have to have your screen sit down every single meeting, because of that's always the way to be.
Well, what I would say is, be selective, because use that screen when you want to see the reaction of the other person. In the job that I do as an executive coach, when I ask the question, I want to see the reaction. In fact, the silence is often the most important clue that somebody's has taken something on board. But I need the video to see it's not just a technical problem and the line's gone down again.
Exactly. And it's like I say, like as we've talked about in the earlier episodes, fit for purpose. So use things when you need to, but at the same time, if you don't need to have or if you need to have a break, turn your video off for 10 minutes. You don't have to have everybody switched on, and people are those people who are naturally shy don't like having the screen on their face all the time. So try to be more observant, not just to your team, but to others, about how to have different meetings. So I think these all help reduce stress, manage stress, and manage these things as we go into the dark of winter.
Yeah, thanks for that. So I'm with you on that 100%. I'm going to go through those happiness chemicals, and apart from the dark chocolate, which is always with me, I'm going to have a look at some of the others.
Excellent. Well, let's say talk about managing stress. The weekend is always the best way to switch off and managing stress. So I know that there's, looking at the background there, we always have rugby coming up in the autumn season, but with no pub coming up on the weekend, Phil, what are you going to do for the weekend to help balance the stress in your world?
Yeah, definitely get outside. So enjoy a lot of fresh air, walk the dogs, play with the dogs.
More pats.
Yeah, that's true.
You should have a sign, Phil, 5 minutes free pats for my dog, to help people get those chemicals released. Be super popular.
Unfortunately, all of the amateur rugby has been cancelled for the rest of the season here in the UK because of Corona. So, but there'll be work to be done down at the new clubhouse that we're constructing here in the middle of England. So that'll obviously keep people busy, and it's a great way of doing things in a community way, outside, safe. And
exactly it. I think people also should be reminded that just because you're in lockdown, that you still can do community activities, and as Madeline talked about last time, do it outside. You don't have to be indoors for all these things. So you don't have to stop everything because of restrictions. So try and think outside the box regarding how can people who are generally live by themselves interact with the community. People are doing this tough, so help everybody make it less tough by being more involved with each other.
And what about you? So what are your plans?
Well, super. Talk about family. It's my son's birthday today, so he's promised. Well, he's not promised. We've promised him a big birthday cake and a new bike. So my bike family gets bigger and bigger. So I think we've now got 10 bikes in the garage now. So old bikes, new bikes. So we have a birthday celebration tonight, and then tomorrow we'll all be going cycling. It's outdoor fresh air exercise, and then I promised him a big barbecue. Hamburgers for both tonight, and then some type of barbecue tomorrow. So it's celebrations all weekend over here, and cycling. So fantastic.
Well, I'm sure everybody listening will wish him a fantastic birthday. I certainly do. Have a great time, and I think it'll be time to start celebrations very shortly. So
exactly, with a nice cold beer. Even though he can't drink, I'm not encouraging. Let me finish a cold beer for myself, not for him. But on behalf of, as parents, we brought this son into the world. So I'll celebrate with some nice cold beers this afternoon. So looking forward to that.
Very good indeed. Lovely. Well, enjoy your son's birthday. Enjoy the new bike, and then it's been good to share a few tips on managing stress as we head into the winter months.
Exactly. Excellent, Phil. Have a nice weekend, and speak to you next week.
Okay, all the very best
Okay.
for everyone. Take
Bye.
care.